Hello and welcome to my September wrap-up video. Yes, this is the first video after my August wrap-up. I don't know why. I'm planning on some other videos, but for now you'll probably get a video once a month. If I look tired, I am. My classes have officially started, so it's kind of draining up my energy. So I have coffee today with me in this beautiful, beautiful mug. If you're a mug lover, I hope you will appreciate this one. Remember perhaps from my last video how I said that every single year September has been the month in which I read the most. Well, I did have my expectations high, but no, I read only 5 books yet again, and I DNF'd one. Also, if you've noticed, this little bad boy here, this is the only physical copy that I have for you. The rest of the physical books I borrowed from the library and I had to give them back. So we're working with this one and the pretty pictures up here. And this is actually the first book I'm going to talk about. I finished it at the beginning of the month, on the 4th. I had such a wonderful time with this one. I am still a month later, I'm filming this on the 9th of October, I am still in the bookish hangover because of it. I am constantly, whether I want it or not, I'm constantly comparing every single thing that I read to this big boy because I'm still looking for this feeling that this thing brought within me, and these characters and this intricate magic system and this interesting world. You have these things in the mists which are actually crazy. I won't spoil anything for you because I am so glad that I went into this knowing minimal information. I knew the names of the 2 main characters. I didn't know their relations, I didn't know anything. I knew this premise that Sanderson gives when he talks about this series, that he thought about what would the world be like if the heroes had lost. On the back, you have, what if the prophesied hero had failed to defeat the Dark Lord? The answer will be found in the Mistborn trilogy, a saga of surprise that begins here. Never mind, so that is like the main idea. Although that isn't necessarily what the book is about. You don't really get the history, you get the now. I planned on doing a whole video only about this. I have not edited it yet, nor have I filmed it. I only have some like reading vlog type videos I filmed while reading with my reactions and stuff. So I have that, but I didn't yet film the commentary. I have the whole trilogy, by the way. It's up there. I was actually kind of afraid that I won't love it. And I have the whole thing bought because I usually buy books that I'm like 1000% sure I'm going to love. Or if they were cheap and sounded interesting, or if I've already read them, like from the library, or listened to an audiobook, or read an ebook, and I want like a trophy to go back to and reread as much as I want. So I'm really glad this wasn't a miss, because if I had read it anywhere else, I would most probably buy it. So I won't go too much into this, because I will go into like further analyzing in the video I plan to make about this one only. But like to summarize, other than praise, it is a bit slow until like the last 150-ish pages. It's kind of slow, but it's not boring at all. You get this world building, you get everything you need in a fantasy series. This is, by the way, like high fantasy, but I would say it's kind of YA as well, but who am I to judge? You get everything, but there is no info dump, and there are no like weird conversations when people in this world explain their world to people who also live in their world. Like, I'm not going to go around and explain to my neighbor what a car is, am I? You know what I mean? There is none of that in here. I actually cried while reading this at one point, and that happened so rarely. But this, I wanted to sob. If it isn't obvious, I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars, and I would highly recommend it. Please do tune in into my reading my first Brandon Sanderson book. I will yap about this one for like probably 20 minutes straight. Putting it back into its spot from the beginning of the video, I would like to move on to my next read, Paris, the Memoir by Paris Hilton. I'm consulting my reading journal, by the way. I knew next to nothing about Paris Hilton before reading her memoir. I knew of her. I knew that she was into fashion, I guess, but I never knew what she actually did. Went into it completely blind, but I was just in the mood for like memoirs by these famous women in the showbiz after reading Britney's memoir. This seemed appropriate, this seemed like something I would like. And I did. Because I knew so little about Paris, this all came as a surprise, honestly. I didn't know anything about her family. I didn't know about anything she went through. I honestly admire her. I can't even imagine what that experience must have been like in that like cultish school. Earlier this year, I read Cultish by Amanda Montell in June, to be specific. I, by the way, do recommend it. The writing style is a bit, but I think it's really interesting about cults and cult behavior and cult language, or how you create cults with language, if that's something you might find interesting. So there was actually a bit about that organization in which Paris was caught up, but it didn't go into as much detail as the survivor of it, aka Paris Hilton. That was honestly the most interesting part about that book. I was just on the edge of my seat, honestly. Like, I know she's fine, I know she's alive, breathing, rich, you know, I know she's fine, but you know, you still kind of want to know what happened next. What is this? It was heartbreaking. The same as Britney. Britney went through the conservatorship, and Paris went through a torturing cult. Please, give these women a break. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars because I really did enjoy it. I also enjoy the fact that she, as she has ADHD, made sure to write the book in the way that her thoughts work. So it's kind of like jumping from point A to point B, but that's intentional. That's to show how an ADHD mind works. And I thought that was really cool and interesting, actually, that the editor didn't just like, oh no, put it the way it's supposed to be. It's interesting to see that. But what I didn't like is the fact that there are really some stories or stuff like that that I don't think make much sense in this whole story she's trying to tell. Just some sequences or, well, yeah, stories. I don't think they should have been there. I think they could work and are interesting, but that they should be put in a different book. They deserve to be told, but not in this context, because they kind of don't fit, if that makes any sense. I mean, this is of course very, very subjective, again, as all reading is, but you know, that's just my opinion, and hopefully that's why you're here. Also, the fact that Paris actually narrated the audiobook. I love when authors do that. It's just magical, you know, they know how they want their story to be told. They know their material inside and out. I always appreciate that. So, while the first book of the month was a 5-star read, and the second one was 4.5, the third one disappointed me, okay? So let's put it in the context. I am about to read my next book. I planned on reading The Night Circus, but that is quite chunky, and I just went out of a chunky book. I knew I don't really have time to read the next one trilogy because my classes are starting soon, and I know I have time for a little like quick-ish read, something fast with about 350 pages. So I can still have time to read The Night Circus before October. And all over Bookstagram, by the way, if you don't follow me there, please do. Shameless plug. So all over Bookstagram, I kept seeing one book. That is, or was, Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Will I keep holding up my Kindle like this while I talk? Yes, I will. Will it turn off at one point and I won't realize it's turned off? Yes. So enjoy while you can. Basically, I was so hyped. Like, everyone loved it. It was so emotional. It was so beautiful. It's about NASA and space travel and astronomy. I was like, okay, count me in. That could be the perfect book. Plus, I could join the hype, you know? I wanted to be there in the conversations. Oh well, boy, was I wrong. While I am not blind and I saw that like the subtitle said a love story, I thought that was a subplot. And again, was I wrong? I again won't give you any spoilers for this one, but this book just wasn't for me. I couldn't feel a thing. The opening scene is this hectic thing in which you are in the space station with, I think there were 4 or 5 astronauts up there. There was a mishap and code red is upon them. Basically, they are about to die if they don't do anything. They are actually dying because they have, if I'm remembering this correctly, something broke and now they are losing air and the air pressure is messed up, etc. Spacey stuff, okay? I won't pretend like I remembered everything. Here's the thing. The first, or two, out of many problems that I had, too many characters. I am bombarded with so many names and I just didn't remember any of them. You have this like a parallel, the space station and like the crew on Earth who communicate with the people in the station, and I just couldn't keep up who is where, who is dying, who is whatever. Like later you learn the names, you get who they are, etc., but you don't get that at the start, so it was very disorienting, honestly, because there are spacey terms but also not enough. But it's just weird. It's just this chaos, and I just couldn't catch up with it. I kept stopping and being, wait, what's happening? Please, I mean, a lot of different people like are going to be reading this. You can't count on the fact that they know what is happening, and you can't count on the fact that a person will immediately remember all the names. And as the plot moved on, I again couldn't keep up with the names. I just didn't care about the characters because they were so, I don't know, they didn't click with me. I thought they were quite bland. They had like a personality trait, but it's not enough. I just couldn't care less about them. I know I sound mean, but it just didn't connect to me. And an emotional read such as this should be can't really do that to you. You have to connect, you have to care for it to be emotional. So that all really bugged me. The love story, the center of this book, I didn't ship them. I didn't feel the connection. I wouldn't say it was forced. I mean, you could see it from a mile away, so I guess they did have chemistry, but I didn't care about the chemistry. I didn't care about anyone. What I did like, however, is this... Oh, okay, I saw it go off. The only part I did care about was this part with the niece of the main character. Frances, I think her name is? Yes, Frances. I cared about her story and that connection, aunt with her niece, the problems or the trouble she had at home. I looked forward to the parts that included her, and that is a subplot. That is not enough for me to care or pump up the grade for this one. What I will say is that Taylor Jenkins Reid is a great writer. Her passages are really beautiful. I also appreciate the fact that she kind of wrote about these things, such as that we are seeing, like when you look at the night sky, you see a star. That is the same star your ancestors saw, like way, way, way back. They looked at the same star, and you kind of, when you look at the star, you see the past, because like light has to travel to you, and you basically see that star as it was, like I don't know how many years ago, because that's how long the light had to travel to us. So yeah, when you look at the sky, you see the past. I actually already knew that, I already thought about it, but I think this is a great discussion to have in a book for people who may not have known that, or may not have thought about it, for them to find love in like astronomy, etc., because I personally think it's really cool. And you'll have to read it in order to know what I'm talking about, because that would be a spoiler. But the scene in New Orleans, I really enjoyed the way it was written, not the hotel, but that place where the main character Joan goes. The way she describes certain people around her, I think that was actually magical, that realization that she has while looking at them all. So if it weren't for the way that Taylor Jenkins Reid writes, or that subplot with Francis, I would definitely give this book 3 stars, but I did pump it up because of these, and now it's 3.5. Basically, this was a big disappointment. I had to fight my way through this because I just didn't feel like reading. Next up is a book that I borrowed from the library, so I had to give it back before filming this, but it's Susjed, or Il Vicino, because you can only have it in these 2 languages, Croatian and Italian, which sucks, because I think it's a really interesting book that probably could benefit from being translated into some other languages, such as, I don't know, maybe English. If I were to describe it, I would say it's You, but without bloodbath. We follow this protagonist, Katarina, as she obsesses over her neighbor. She basically lives in an apartment building, and this guy lives 2 floors below her. They say hello to each other, or rather good morning, as they go to work every day, and she's just in love, because that's all that girl needs, or when she's in her 30s. And we follow her as she has these scenarios in her head, as she imagines stuff, as she steals his socks if they fall to the floor, as she cooks him lunch and leaves it in front of his door. She gets to some pretty crazy ideas. And then, of course, there is a twist, etc. It was kind of good. Why kind of? The first half was so great. You have this complete psychological portrayal of this, I wouldn't say mad, I wouldn't say insane, probably a little crazy, but more than a little. So I don't know how you would call her. Let's just say crazy. This crazy woman who is obsessing with this poor guy, doesn't even know her name. And by the way, she doesn't know his name either. She assumes because she knows his surname, as it says on the door, and she kind of tried to figure out what his name may be, because there are 2 people in the building with that surname, so she just assumes his name. Spoiler, it isn't his name actually. And you kind of see how many crazy ideas, scenarios, and thoughts that women can land upon. And while all of that is fun, the second half of the book, I don't know, the pacing became a little boring. The twist, while it made sense and her behavior made sense because, again, she's crazy, it just fell a little flat. It became like a caricature of her, which is kind of okay because she is a bit caricature-like, but it just goes to an extreme. And while that extreme again makes sense, the book doesn't really benefit from it. Actually, it starts to drag, and the resolution, the end of the book, is kind of like meh. Again, it is in character, but it's just underwhelming and a bit rushed. The book is only about like 200 pages long, 210 max. And I think the book would benefit from like additional 20 pages or something, because you could have a more sensical ending. Again, it was a bit rushed. The book like ends, but it's not really the best in this book. I'm really glad I read it though, because that is a book by, again, a Croatian author, and I usually avoid those because I have no faith in Croatian literature at all. So this was way better than expected, and I wanted to support her. So I did give her 4 stars. Realistically, it's more like a 3.5 stars, but 4 stars is alright. I initially gave it 4.5 out of 5, but like as time goes by and I'm thinking more about it, it's not that good as I initially thought it was. I thought the problem was in me, in my bookish hangover, looking at you, Sanderson, but I don't think it is. After it, I planned on finishing another little tiny book before heading into The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So I picked I Am Legend by Richard Matheson, if that's how you pronounce it. When I was little, I watched the movie with Will Smith, and I really, really liked it. I thought it was fun, I thought it was intense, and I wanted to read this book, ever since. Years went by, and finally I decided to get it from the library. It was only, I think it has like 150 pages or so I was like, okay, fast read, I can do this in one sitting. And it was kind of horror-y. It was towards the end of September, so kind of October, so kind of the spooky season. But I was disappointed. Boy, was I disappointed. I DNF'd this, people. I DNF'd it so hard. I read the third of it and I couldn't do it any longer. Perhaps this is only my opinion, but I found the main character, this alpha, white, blonde, tall, muscular, blue-eyed man, to be so damn annoying and pretentious and turned on constantly. All I read about, it seemed, was how he saw all these vampire women around him trying to kill him, and he did experiments on them. It always seemed to be the woman that he chose. Oops. He actually wanted to he wanted to do that to every single one because he didn't have a woman in a while. Why? And I actually would tolerate it, not his behavior, but that character, as in I would tolerate the book if it offered an interesting psychological analysis of this man. I can read about foul people and be okay with it. Not with them, but be okay with reading it. Actually, I find it interesting if there is a space to analyze them, to judge their morality, to rethink their actions. I mean, I love like morally grey characters. If someone is out there killing people, of course I wouldn't support that in real life, but in a book, you have these thoughts of theirs, so you can analyze them. You can still judge them, and you probably do, but you have this space for discussion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in this book, I can tell you that he was absolutely portrayed as this grand, great man, an alpha man, and he could do no wrong. He is this hero. He is the savior of humankind, and he can do no wrong. I DNF'd it so hard, I couldn't do it. I planned on finishing it just to see what this thing will go, but I couldn't make myself. I really couldn't. I'm just glad I didn't buy it at any point in my life, because that would be money wasted. If you liked this book, that's okay. I just want to talk to you about it because I want to see it from your perspective and be wrong, because I'm just so disappointed. And I am aware it's basically a classic. It's from 1964. this revisited edition, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. And the very last book I finished this past month, on the last day of the month, mind you, was Margo's Got Money Troubles by Rufi Thorpe. I went into it completely blind. Again, I think it's a reoccurring theme. I think you can already see that I love doing that. So blind I went and was really pleasantly surprised right from the bat. And by the way, the narrator is Elle Fanning, and she did an amazing job. So I'm just going to take my phone and read to you the opening paragraph because I think it was so cool. You are about to begin reading a new book, and to be honest, you are a little tense. The beginning of a novel is like a first date. You hope that from the first lines an urgent magic will take hold, and you will sink into the story like a hot bath, giving yourself over entirely. But this hope is tempered by the expectation that, in reality, you are about to have to learn a bunch of people's names and follow along politely like you're attending the baby shower of a woman you hardly know. And that's fine. Goodness knows you've fallen in love with books that didn't grab you in the first paragraph. But that doesn't stop you from wishing they would. From wishing they would come right up to you in the dark of your mind and kiss you on the throat. Please, I was sold. Sold! And that's basically how the entire writing in the book is. It's like a little funny, a little ironic. It's very contemporary, as in like this main character Margo is talking to, because it's actually written from her perspective. So basically first person narrative. But many points in the book are written from the third person. The narrator, Margo, tells us herself that she will use a third person at some parts because she it's a lot for her. She didn't feel comfortable in that situation from her past. She wants to tell it, but she just has to disassociate her from that particular part of her life story. I think that technique is really cool. I use really a lot, I've realized, so please do bear with me. I'm nervous, so my vocabulary gets very limited. It is a story about a 19-year-old young woman who was in college, hooked up with her professor and got pregnant. And she didn't want to give up the baby. She decided to have it, and she kind of has to make her way through life trying to raise this kid. And she, of course, as the title suggests, has money troubles because, I mean, she's a young woman trying to do waitressing for a living in LA, and she's having quite a hard time. We learn about her more and more, her personality, which is quite quirky, and how she's trying to navigate this very difficult life to provide for her son, but also trying to keep her sanity. She doesn't know what to do. You learn about her mother and father, who are, because of many problems that she has, you see how she is weighing her options and trying to determine the lines which she can and cannot cross. You have a lot of these conversations she has about morality and about family and about actually religion as well, about motherhood, about friendship, about parents, about addiction. There are a lot of things covered in here, but all kind of discussed in this sort of comedic tone in many places, which makes it a bit lighter. But if you like stop and think about it, they are quite heavy topics, and I just thought it was really interesting to think about them more profoundly, to find out how a girl like that lives, how she has to fight through life, and what she has to go through. This is kind of spoilery, so do skip to this timestamp. But a lot of the book is focused on that app on which you have subscriptions for seeing women do things that society would deem immoral and then men pay to watch it. You know what I mean? I probably can't say the name in the video, so I won't, but I think you probably know. It has fans in the name. There is a lot of discussion about it and what those women go through, because Margo actually goes on there and makes money there after she loses her job as a waitress. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't perfect, but I would still highly recommend it. It was really interesting, it was eye-opening, and the character of Margo is so random and creative, and you have to feel sorry for her and root for her, whatever she does. So that was my September wrap-up. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books I talked about, do tell me in the comments. I would love to discuss them with you. If I've inspired you to put some on your TBR, tell me that as well. Also, tell me what you read throughout September. I'm really curious and nosy. If you've liked this video and want to see more, please like, please subscribe, leave me a comment down below and say hi. I'd love to get to know you. I would also suggest you follow me on my Instagram, as I also mentioned in this video. That is it. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.